Good morning and welcome everybody to this Monday, May 1st, 2023 workshop of the Lake County School Board. Let's begin this morning with a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. So please rise. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Unless I'm overlooking them, I don't see any public input cards. So we'll dive right into our topics this morning, beginning with the staffing plan 3.01.
So good morning, everyone. We are going to review for you the staffing plan changes that we're proposing for the upcoming school year, as we do every year. So you'll get to hear from all of the department heads today as we share some of the changes that we're bringing to the board. So on the screen, we'll be looking for there it is, the staffing plan. And I'll have you click in the back until Mr. Ward comes up after me, and because the remote's over there. So we'll go on to the first page of the staffing plan. As you know, every year we bring this to you. These are the district positions, and as we've always done, we always look at, first of all, the needs of our schools and the district and positions that we want to propose, either changes for those positions, but we also look at the financial impact of these positions as well. We look at alternative funding sources wherever possible as our top priority. And so the positions that I'm going to start today is under school safety and security. That department does sit under me due to the accountability and the oversight that is needed. So what I am proposing in terms of changes to the staffing plan for the upcoming school year are as follows. So what you'll see there is the deletion of one supervisor for safety and security and changing that position to the director of safety and security. The rationale for that is that this will make it consistent with that same position in other school districts and across the state in terms of the statutes that govern school safety and security. The financial impact, as you can see, is not impacting our general funds, which we are very protective of. It is coming out of our millage. And the difference in the salaries and benefits really is in that benefits section. It is a higher FRS class, and so while the salary itself is not a significant increase, it is the FRS contribution that is the difference that you're seeing there. We're also looking to add an administrative coordinator for school safety and security, also out of the millage. This department has been a 1.5 man show for a while. Mr. Palmer works for us part-time. He oversees our Guardian program. And so it is just Mr. Mabry who is in this department, and I can tell you that I don't know that he ever sleeps. He is overseeing not only the day-to-day safety and security operations of the district, he's taken on a lot of other roles. He's been very supportive of our schools and all of their daily needs in terms of students and staff. And the compliance portion of this continues to grow. As this legislative session ends, you'll see more and more changes within the area of school safety and security and the compliance and oversight. So we're looking to add this position to help with this compliance, some of the grant writing pieces, and the data reporting that is required by statute. So that is the changes to school safety and security and my department. Okay. And next up is Mr. Ward. He'll talk about business services and the departments underneath him.
Good morning, board members.
Morning.
Is that on?
It's on.
So what we're proposing for business services is starting in the payroll section first. What we're proposing is taking one of our senior payroll specialists and turning that position into an assistant payroll manager. Our payroll manager is going to be retiring this fall, and this will allow us some succession planning in our payroll department and give us a good flow as people progress up. The next one is risk management, and you'll see a lot of these risk management positions that we're asking for are related to projects in the district. And so starting out with the mitigation project manager, this person would be responsible for handling anything that's an insurance claim or environmental impact, or any type of FEMA project that would be reimbursable by the district. The next one is a building permit specialist, and we're also asking to add 2 inspector code compliance. These positions are related to the new buildings that are coming up, the Fruitland Park project and the Mineola project. So these positions, the building permit specialist and the inspector code compliance, we would like to go ahead and hire prior to July 1. And the reason being is as these projects are ramping up, there's some pre-construction things that need to be done. And so we would like to go ahead and start placing that staff in place and getting them ready to go, if possible. The next one is the senior benefit specialist. A change. Right now, we have a senior benefit specialist, and she's primarily responsible for our near $50 million health insurance plan for the district. We would like to move her into a more compatible role in her position, so she would be a benefits manager, and she's now supervising more people, so this would be more in line with the management of the people, that staff that she has underneath her. So it would be eliminating the senior benefits specialist position and adding a benefits manager's position. And then the next one is our current supervisor of risk management. We would like to move him into a role that's more equitable to other school districts. Typically, the person who's responsible for your entire risk management team is at a director level. As you'll see, a nice increase in the cost there. But like the other position that we talked about earlier, that is mainly due because they're going into the higher benefit class. And so it's really an increase in benefits, not so much an increase in salary. Any questions on ours? If you look, you'll see that our net impact to the general fund is a negative $165,000. We are also taking some other positions that are risk management that are currently working on capital projects, so we're allowed to reimburse their salary, so we're providing more savings in those positions so that it saves the general fund and goes towards the cost of the building.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the building permit specialist and inspector code compliance?
Yes.
Will those be permanent positions that possibly will remain after the completion of the buildings that we have on?
Yes, ma'am. They will.
Those are permanent positions?
Yes, ma'am. They are permanent. And the idea is we will always have building going on, so we'll need those kind of inspectors related to that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A question, just as I'm thinking about your payroll processes, and I know that at least this past year, we were very fortunate to be able to do some pretty significant raises for all of our employees, and I think that was even maybe a couple of rounds of processing the raises and any sort of supplements and things of the sort. And I know that process is very labor intensive, and because of that, it takes a while for those to roll out. So I'm just trying to think about if there's any sort of way to either streamline it or whether there's software out there that would aid your department, or whether it might be in the people portion, if there's anything that would be able to help make that go a little faster.
Sure. We explored one program. We explored one program last year and with Dwayne Weeks' department. We rolled it out. It wasn't working well. There were some changes in the software that had an impact to us, so that project kind of died. But we'll definitely pick that project up again
Okay.
in the near future.
So you think that's more on the technical side versus the people side that
Yeah,
would help?
and a lot of the process that goes on in payroll is dependent on HR too. And Chad's going to talk a little bit about some of the needs for the HR department too. That'll help in some of that.
Okay, all right.
Do you think that FEMA management position will also, I remember there was there wasn't a hurricane in the middle of that, and then it was almost like we had to shift gears and manage insurance and FEMA and all of that shifted away from managing those, is there
Well-
any thinking around that? I like the thinking, Mr. Bagelon.
Yeah, so that did have an impact on payroll, but it was paying all of the additional pays because of the hurricanes that hit in the middle of that. That FEMA manager position would not be as involved in that, because that is, again, another paper-intensive process, and it requires payroll to go in and individually add those hours so that those people can get paid.
Okay, I appreciate the transparency. I'm sure it'd be easy to say, yes, that's right, but no, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess that segues into Chad with HR, right?
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I've got 3 different sections I'll be talking about today with some brief explanation. Compensation and employee relations. Requesting a manager of employee relations. That's currently the person that we have under the supervisor of employee relations. So they manage an extremely large caseload. We've seen our cases in the last 3 years, our major investigations have tripled. So we've gone from, around 17 in 19 to 20, 2021, it was around 19, following year around 20, now it's up to 42 year-to-date, major investigations. And along with major investigations, there's hundreds of complaints and issues that we look into throughout the course of the school year. We've ran that department really thin, and we take pride in that. But the idea is that, we want to make sure that we're, taking care of the caseloads appropriately. We revised some of our investigation procedures and processes, so we provide a more thorough investigation and reporting techniques. And just the additional background issues alone, because they work hand in hand with HR on those issues, the work has just become too heavy of a load for 2 people to manage. And plus, we'd like to get back to our ability to take some proactive actions across the district to support our employees, who we're finding more and more employees in crisis. Our employee assistance program is managed by that department also. And also getting out, we used to go out and be able to spend time with the supervisors would ask employee relations to come out and do more trainings and talk to some groups about different things and spikes on our radar that we see in our data that are common issues that seem to be reoccurring among our employees. So we'd like to get back to some more of those activities, but the time constraints have become, pretty tough, and there's compliance deadlines and things we have to meet. So we're running really hard to get all those things done and taken care of. So that's the rationale for that position. You guys want to, by department, ask questions if you have them, and then I'll pause after each one. Okay. All right, the next position is a manager of HR. This would be a working manager. This is someone that would be capable of doing every duty across the department, but also managing the day-to-day, daily tasks in the department. It goes back to that compensation piece. It's become so complex that, that's part of what this position will participate in, but it also frees up our folks that are working on that to be able to do some things. For example, our Director of Human Resources, Guido Zamora, he's in the weeds so much on the day-to-day, on the varying activities that go on across the department, whether it's, the ungodly increase in public records requests and how sensitive some of those can be. I know Mr. Myers probably hears from Guido almost on a daily basis at this point. Whether it's certification issues that have become so widespan, and HR has taken over those responsibilities and working with each and every school to make sure that people are meeting those requirements and additional requirements that come along. There's just a laundry list of things that go on in that department. And, first and foremost, we want people paid on time, and that will assist us in that process and procedure. So that's really just helping us manage the duties of that department and make sure that we're back to peak efficiency. I know you guys have heard me say, we like it when people don't realize HR exists, right? Because that means we're taking care of our employees' business life in the background, and they can perform their daily life in the departments and schools without any worries. We just want to make sure that we're managing that process for the district well. And then my last section is food service. Food service is doing really well. As you know, we're going to continue to be able to do free lunch for the district, so we're excited about that. Got back some clean audits. We're excited about that, so sneak in a little kudos for Ms. Milliken and her staff. But we'd also like to take on a new project of managing all of the HR processes for food service. Right now, the current structure is it's split between the school administration and food service field techs, and then Ms. Milliken at the district level. But what happens is trying to get everybody on the same page, and the turnover and people that need to be onboarded, offboarded, interviewed, disciplined, position posted, evaluations, all of that just gets so spread out when we've got too many hands in the pot. So I have presented this to our principals, and I'd say all of the feedback really was that they're excited about this. Most cases, around 30 employees being removed off of their plate. What I guaranteed them was they would not lose those relationships that they have in their areas of food service, and that they would not lose access to their cafeterias and their dining areas. And if they do want to participate in some of those things and provide feedback as far as evaluations and other things that might be going on campus, that's their campus, then they will be able to participate in some of those things and provide additional information. But we'd love to take that burden off the schools. They've got so much that keeps getting added to them, and we feel like this will just be more time that they can focus on, student learning. So what happens is we add one food service field technician. We currently have 4, but 5 will allow us to properly regionalize and help manage those tasks. And then we would have an in-house food service HR specialist that would essentially take the place of a vacant Secretary 2 that we have. And it is kind of a combination of Secretary 2, bookkeeper, and HR specialist all together, so the duties are very heavy. But what we plan to do is in the area of compensation employee relations, train up those food service field techs, so they're doing things in the vision that you guys have of how you want our employees to be treated, and the superintendent, and how you want them to be managed in some aspects of their duties. But also the food service HR specialists they'll be part of our Monday morning huddles with our whole HR team, and they'll be part of that fold too, so they're very aware and keen on the processes and appropriate procedures for HR for food service. Right now, it's kind of a split deal that, like before, it's a lot of hands in the pots, one department waiting on another, and things just slow down and bog down a little bit from time to time, and we want to prevent that. And then lastly, our refrigeration technician position. Right now, we have a lead refrigeration tech, and we have a refrigeration tech. So we'd like to add a refrigeration tech 1, and then we'll revise by title only the current refrigeration tech position. And basically what that allows for is someone to come in, possibly, that's gained some mechanical skills and hands-on skills out of our HVAC academies, but it's not the same. Refrigeration's a little bit different ballgame, but having some of those technical skills to bridge over, they can accompany our lead technician, and he can train them up and have them do some hands-on, on-the-job training with them and produce them into hopefully someone that can meet their certification needs to become an actual refrigeration technician with certifications and everything that they need. In the private world, it's difficult to even get people to handle those things. And they, as you guys know, food temperatures, that's key. It could be, you drop those temperatures for X amount of time and you could have a pretty decent catastrophe on your hands. So we want to make sure that we're supporting food service in that department also. As you see, net general impact fund, $168,567. And then the net impact to other funding funding sources, $109,000, which is our food service account, which we've got plenty of room for, to do some things in there to enhance our program. Any questions?
Yes, sir. I have a couple.
All right.
Who will actually hire the managers of the cafeteria? Is that going to be handled by the person in HR, or is the principal still going to be responsible?
No, the principal will no longer be responsible for hiring the manager in the cafeteria.
Okay, so what happens when a parent calls the principal because they're unhappy about something that happened in the cafeteria? Is the principal going to refer them to HR?
Yes,
or-
they refer them to Linda Milliken, the Director of Food Services, Supervisor of Food Services. And we'll work hand in hand with the principal to make sure that we handle those issues. And sometimes a lot of times, it's not the principal that's usually going in, and I know there might be some interactions and some things where that might be the issue. Then if there's some conflict resolution that's got to go on, there'll still be some partnership in how we work that out. But we'll be handling, if it's a disciplinary thing, we'll be handling that from food service. So if it's a procedures thing, then a field tech would usually address those issues. But if it advances beyond, usually it's employee relations that will pick up an investigation if there's a major issue.
So basically, the principal will be taken out of the process.
For the most part, if they have valuable input, then that would definitely be well received, and we would take that valuable input and use it in the usual procedures. Quite honestly, I'm involved a lot in, at this time with food service. Ms. Milliken and Ms. Cronin and I just met Friday afternoon about one cafeteria where we're trying to get everybody back on track and get things going. And there's just been examples across where things are, while the food service employees are on their campus and they feel like they're part of their team, which they are, they're part of the family, right? But a lot of times they don't really have an idea of what regulations are required, what things are being done, what we need to do to be able to meet and have clean audits and not get dinged by USDA. And they're also what's coming in and out of the cafeterias, front door, back door, right? And how we're managing foods that have possibly spoiled or that should not be there, and expiration dates and things like that. So there's just so the overall, we'll definitely work in conjunction with those principals and make sure they're happy, right? Because if we don't have a happy principal, then things aren't going well. So we're going to make sure that they're okay.
I hear you. I appreciate what you're saying. It does cause me a little bit of concern. It truly does. But I hear you.
It's certainly a new way of work, right?
It's definitely a new way of work.
So, and that's what Ms. Milliken and them have requested this before, and they've been turned down.
Yeah, I know.
Because I said, I need a structure and a plan that you have an idea of how you can accomplish, because I didn't think that they grasped the full capacity of what it was going to take. So now I feel like we've got the bones of a good plan put together, and now we're going to work to fill in and make sure that that we take it on.
And the principals were involved in this discussion?
Yes, I talked to all three groups of principals, two are combined, right, in our principals business meeting, and asked them for their individual feedback, asked them to meet with their kind of leader of the groups and give me their feedback. One group I got a thumbs up before I could even get out the door. They were so excited. And I had one email who requested that they be able to just weigh in on the evaluation piece, so they can share, which could be a positive thing, right? Probably more times than not, it's a positive thing. So that was what we got. So
It's a little unsettling for me, for a manager of a building to be on that campus every day and have someone else come in and do the evaluation. That just, I would find that difficult. But that's, just me.
I understand you have a very
That's
good
just me.
background and perspective in that area, right?
No problem. I understand it's for the good of the district, so I'm good.
And we're where we see things that might not be working, we'll adjust and we'll get it to working. So,
Thank you.
we good?
I'm good.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Just want to note that the increased cost in human resources was offset by the decreased cost in business services. And as we move into operations, that's where you're going to see the bulk of the increase and impact to the general fund. This is an area that certainly for quite some time, as they've come and begged and pleaded for some additional positions, that we've said no. I have said no, just due to the cost, and I'm to the point now where I cannot continue to say no because we see the significant impact as our buildings continue to age and new construction is now being completed. In the process, we know that there are very highly skilled positions that we are having to outsource, and so my hope is that as we add these positions internally, we will eventually be able to discontinue some of the outsourcing of these, especially in emergency situations. And so I'll tell you, the gentlemen on the back row have done an amazing job just really establishing some priorities, looking at the needs across the district in terms of these skilled positions. They brought a very robust plan, and we've been able to establish some priorities, knowing that we can do anything we want, but we can't do everything we want, right? So I'm going to ask Mr. Carr to come forward. He's going to just talk about these positions, and I know he is bringing the voice of those in the back row with him when he comes forward.
Absolutely. Good morning, and thanks for that great segue. That'll shorten my time. As you know, I time to time get long-winded in support of my staff. So with that segue, I'd also like to tie into with what Scott Ward had talked about. And so basically with regard to facilities, it kind of speaks to itself with regard to the amount of construction that we have going between the modernization and the new schools that we have coming online. We're grossly deficient in the staff that we have to keep that on point. So that speaks for itself with regard to an owner's rep to project manager and a facility specialist. So there we go. Grounds, most all of you, this is what's really great with all of you and your tenure that you have with Lake County Schools and the importance and the appearance of the grounds and what we do. So as you can see, Gary is here to talk about that further if we need to have further discussion on that. So we're adding 5 grounds workers, 3 as you can see, and 1 record specialist, and that's really to kind of tie in line with work orders. And speaking of work orders, that's kind of the segue with Calvin's team, my maintenance guys. Obviously, that's going to be the largest hit that we see, as the superintendent did the lead-in without really reiterating, but perhaps a little bit reiterating in brief is the aging of our facilities. We know we're 30-plus years old, and the maintenance has exponentially gone up, and we are understaffed to respond to the goals that the superintendent has set forth as the goals that she wants a certain level of maintenance, for the facilities to provide an awesome environment for our students. And so this is I'm going to call it the first phase of what we're coming to ask for, and then we're going to see what this looks like and maybe down the road even add to it. As I looked at our relationship to square footage, it was modeled for the Department of Education, their recommended maintenance plan, and even with this most generous historic, if you so grant this approval, increase in our labor pool, we would still be approximately 30% below where we would need to be based on that state recommendation, and that's not taking into consideration per se the age of our facilities. So with that, I'll just keep it brief. It kind of speaks for itself. The number speaks for itself. As the superintendent did outline, our goal is to reduce some OT, more importantly, third-party contractors, where we can do this in-house and be much more responsive to get our time of completion for work order down, to way down. So that's kind of where we are. And I have my team to include Kelly, again, for facilities, Calvin for maintenance, and of course, Gary for grounds. So if there are any specific questions, I can call up my team or I can address. Thank you very much.
I've got a couple just general ones. The 5 grounds workers, how many do we have now? So what's that total going to be?
I'll look it up. I'm sure you have the sheet there. I'll have to look that up
Okay.
myself too, as far as ground.
I think Gary can tell you.
So again, you have it right there? Oh,
Seven.
Seven.
There you go.
Seven
There you
total
go.
after, we
There
have
you go.
7 now, or you're gonna, 7 total if we add the 5? Oh, wow, okay. That makes sense. All right. And then the other one,
Well, since you added that, I want to say that Gary, it does maintain 9 campuses, which include over 140 acres. In addition to, we seem to work with Scott Fender on giving driving lessons with our buses, with regard to taking out gates, as well as in the parent pickup. Certain drivers become less patient with regard to dropping off their kids and drive over curbs and through gates and all kinds of fun stuff.
got it. And the
Sure,
only
that's
other
only
one.
happened once.
Once a week, Gary, could you say?
Sounds
I'm trying to help him out there.
Walk me through on the lead locksmith, kind of what all's entailed in that, how often are we using that? Because that just sounds like to me off the cuff, something that would make sense to be outsourced, depending on how often that's in place.
Well,
Just
I can
looking
have
from education.
Calvin come up, but I can, let me take a stab, I'll address it because I am familiar with this, and this is working with Joe Mabry's team. So basically, our keys, the decision was made prior to my arrival, where there was an opportunity to go electronic, but that decision was not made, and that was a previous board's decision. I'm going back probably about 12 years ago. So we are under basically a unique key system. So our key is quote-unquote patented or unique. You can't go to a hardware store and have that. So with that, in working with Joe's team, what we want to do is looking at who has access to what, when, and where, based on multiple conditions. So in order to control that, we want to do that internally, with a lead locksmith and have that lead locksmith work with Joe to talk about the pros and the cons, because for every action, there's a reaction with regard to giving access.
And the idea in the past on the key cards, was that just cost prohibitive to go that route? What was?
Well, I can't speak to what decision was made that
Sure.
didn't take us there.
Just sounds like that's a
Because
better
for me,
option.
I'm a proponent of electronic,
Yeah.
access. I'm a huge proponent of that. So, but in order to retrofit our schools,
Takes time.
it would take, it's a huge, significant cost at this point in time. But again, that's something that Joe's team, I'm working with Joe, Alex Hankey, Calvin, and again, myself. So we're kind of dialing that back a little bit and looking at perimeter access and control. And we're also looking at some grant funding for that because it is significantly, it's just a huge cost.
It would certainly take time, and certainly there's a big cost, but if we're talking about potentially bringing on a new school every year, I wonder, and based on the age of that decision 12 years ago, none of us had an opportunity to.
Exactly.
I wonder if it might be worthwhile to have some more discussion about that one.
Oh,
at some
absolutely, because the
point.
new schools that is being, addressed more
Yeah.
specifically, at least on the perimeter, but now we're looking at it, if we can do it all. But keep in mind, like right now, we've got over 2,800 doors.
Right.
So,
No, it's not a
and-
one-year project. So, and I know we can't do everything we want, but,
No, the boss reminds me of that every day.
I wonder if this board would enjoy the opportunity to discuss that one a little deeper and just to
Absolutely,
understand more
glad
about
to
it.
present
Sure.
any type of information that I can for that.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I like that, good.
I just have one, and it's not, I guess my concern is I look at the salaries on here, which is a concern across all of our employees.
Right.
But what is your plan for recruiting people to fill these positions, I suppose?
That's great, and that's tough. Obviously, as Chad alluded to, with his team thinking outside the box and what they're doing, obviously, we're going to Lake Tech. We're trying to do what we can to penetrate our market. As you're very well aware, as all of you are, for residing in the district and realizing that we're in the second largest growing county, at least from my last statistics that Sheriff Grinnell had shared with me, there's a huge demand on skilled labor. And so it's hard. It's very, very hard. And this is where Scott is involved, Chad is involved, and the boss is involved, the superintendent is involved, because it is a high challenge. So we're trying to think out of the box. So do I have a definitive answer to say I'm going to click my heels 3 times, I'm going to fill these positions? No, ma'am.
That'd be great.
I do not. And I'll give you an example. As you can see, we had ESSER funding for duct cleaners, okay, where they came in. I forgot let's just, Calvin could be for clarity, but we ran it that I know of at least 5 times, I believe 6 times, and basically I only had a couple of responses that weren't even close to meeting the minimum requirement. So as a result, working with Scott's team, again, going through Chad, where we're looking at then combining that into the HVAC tech as other duties as described, to answer your questions, because then I can, with Scott's permission, take that ESSER funding and roll that into, so we can try to take a look at those salaries where it's not a burden to the district, and at the same time, we can accomplish our mission.
The high school teaching academy, or construction academies would be.
Absolutely, for our carpenters and our BSTs, BMTs, 100%. As a matter of fact, as you're aware, we have some of Calvin's staff that's actually departed from our team to go and teach. So obviously, those individuals clearly speak of their positive relationship and what we can, create as an opportunity for growth, because we do have a great opportunity for growth. The downside is kind of what I mentioned, is the marketplace. So we get someone that's right out of school that has limited skill sets, but has, good knowledge and good foundation, and then after 2 to 3 years, unfortunately, we have a high probability of losing those individuals.
Right.
You're looking at roughly $61,000 a year. And
that counts benefits, I believe, too.
that's loaded.
Yeah.
No. But all in, the mean in Florida, because I just Googled it while we were doing on each
Right.
of these positions, is 46.9. So that should put us in a position of recruiting.
Oh, we're in a position to recruit, but that's the mean. But when you look at what we have available for Lake County, if you look at, for example, I think Zillow had a thing, I'm trying to remember which one that I used, that were and I used Leesburg, as a matter of fact. I pulled, used the city of Leesburg, and they were actually offering up to 20% more than the mean. So as far as trying to hire folks. So, but it's a challenge. But I'll keep you briefed on that, Bill, and let you know how it goes when we're able to
That
post
still
the
puts
job.
us in a pretty good position.
Oh, it puts us much better, thanks to y'all. I mean,
Right.
thanks to all of y'all for what you have done with salary increases and what you've done. We're in much, much better position than where we were prior to COVID. I mean, just huge better.
And that's actually my compliment, is that when you're putting this plan together, it makes no sense to put a number that isn't realistic, that then we end up with a position just sitting there open because we can't recruit.
Exactly.
So I appreciate the effort y'all put into it.
And I
That was my
appreciate the
point.
effort that y'all have done in supporting, my team. And that's the nice thing about y'all going to the schools, and you're aware, you see, you have an open mind, and I really appreciate it, the support that we're getting, especially on behalf of the superintendent, because the super's been charged with, we've just had to cut, and this is the proverbial can down the road, and with the superintendent's support, I'm able to bring this plan with y'all, or for y'all today.
And I did talk to Mr. Wingo about, as soon as these positions are approved, starting with the construction academies, the fact that we have an HVAC program at Umatilla, we'll be adding a new program next year at Lake Mineola. That was the whole goal, is that we create a workforce that we can have some highly trained, skilled folks ready to go to work. And we've provided summer opportunities for some of them, and now we'd like to offer them full-time employment once they graduate from our academy. So we're excited to be able to go out and do some recruiting internally first.
And just to speak on that, the summer program, Gary, what were you able to hire 2 guys from the summer program? With the carryover, didn't we have, I know we've got 1 full-time guy.
Yes. I've got 1 full-time
Okay.
on staff right now.
Okay, I just wanted to say where there's, that actually is a program that works out pretty well. That because we have because what do we have, like 10 guys, 8 guys?
6 summertime.
All right, so 6, so 1 out of 6 in today's standard, that's very good that we have. So anyway, just to give a plug to the summer help and what y'all do, because I know that also is a burden to Lake County.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry I did ramble, so I
12 and a half
apologize.
minutes, not terrible, John. Did good.
Not that anybody was timing you.
And that HVAC program is at Eastridge, not Lake Mineola. I've been corrected on that one, so.
Good morning. I am
Thankful to be here this morning to propose the positions for the Teaching, Learning, and Leadership Department. So our first one is from our Choice and Alternative Education, starting off with a good one. We're going to reduce one teen parent resource teacher. We have not had to fill this position since the 1920 school year due to lower numbers in teen parents and babies that we have in the district, so that's good news. We are also proposing to change the ELC job descriptions, the ELC management specialist to an extended learning program specialist, program manager, and a bookkeeper to an ELC accounting specialist to more align with the duties that they have in that department. And then college and career readiness, we would like to delete a program specialist for career dual enrollment. The grant has ended, and the program is not continuing in the district. We will be continuing that at Lake Tech. And then the .2 program specialist, we're going to delete this. It's not being renewed. This was to support our aviation development in extending that teacher to the summer hours as well. We will continue the oversight of that program and the development of that program with existing college and career staff, along with support from the aviation instructor at South Lake High School. Any questions on any of those? All right. All right, I went too far. Oh, I missed one on that page. It's on the bottom small, I'm sorry. In our curriculum instruction and assessment department last year, I made a recommendation for a program specialist in that department in preparation of the demands we expected from the changes of House Bill 1557, 1467, and oversight of Florida Statute 847.012. I'd like to take this opportunity to address you on the work that they completed this year. The group consisted of 7 media specialists. They have worked a total of 629 hours, beginning this summer and continuing through the year. They provided support to the schools without media specialists, reviewed books to ensure compliance with the law, began updating our online system, and they provided guidance and expertise to help develop a system to bring classroom libraries into compliance with the law. Since the teachers began logging their classroom libraries to make sure they are in the searchable list, we've had 301 teachers submit their list of additional books to be added. These are numbers as of Friday, as these change daily when we look. From those, 276 books have been reviewed, and 3,278 books total await for review for approval. The work they've done has been exceptional. It should be commended. However, with the expansion to include K-12, we anticipate the work to grow. What we did not anticipate is the almost daily public records requests that we are gaining due to House Bill 1467 and House Bill 1557. At the same time, this department has managed multiple ESSER grants. All of these have created a need for additional support. I'm recommending that we add a program specialist so that they can work to continue with the oversight and providing transparency to our parents. And I think we should evaluate this position yearly, though, to make sure that we are still in need based on the progress in the current legislative needs. If the program specialist could assist the executive director with the public records requests, the grant documentation support, and assist with the approval process of the media collection, we'd be able to provide some needed relief to the workload while maintaining the transparency for our public and getting the classroom library books approved and in the hands of our students. Any questions on that?
Can you clarify the classroom library books getting approved?
So the system that we used, we tried to populate a classroom library tab based on all of the, like for instance, elementary schools. All of the books that are in any of our media specialists across the district in elementary schools became part of a classroom library list, knowing that these were in media centers, so they were approved to be in, creating a massive list across the district. Well, when our classroom libraries started being scanned, some of those books are not in that searchable list. So they then upload them on a form to be added to the list, to be reviewed by a media specialist and added to the list. And that's some of the work our work group is
So
doing.
those have to be, once you have your pile of books that are not in the district library, you have to fill out a form for each book, and that has to go to the media specialist.
You can fill out one form and add multiple books, but yes, they have.
The media specialist has to approve that.
Media specialists approve it. And this work group has been adding those in as they come up.
That's work that you've been doing, correct?
I just didn't, I haven't gotten to that part yet. I've gotten to the book, the stacks of books that aren't in the library, but that I didn't know what to do after that point, so.
Yeah, they add them, and schools are doing that in different ways. Sometimes the teacher's doing it, sometimes the clerk is doing that.
But the media specialist has to approve it.
It
So
ha-
even when the teacher's doing that, like you said, the teacher's doing that, somebody said, "Yeah, I could even do it," but then that has to go to the media specialist for approval.
The statute requires media specialist approval. Yep.
And that person, so you said they would also be able to assist with the public records requests? Is that the idea there too? What
Yes,
you're saying?
the documentation that is being requested to public records requests has been, almost daily.
I know, and we're hearing it from all departments. We're hearing it from HR and curriculum, and I know your work hasn't slowed down either, Sherry. And so, it's everywhere, right? And so, we as a district, we're charging all these folks for their public records requests. Is that right?
When warranted, yes.
Okay, all right. 'Cause I know that that's something we hear about in our ethics training every year about somebody's going to make the pitch that this is for the greater community good or public interest, and so, provide this free of charge. But I think if maybe folks, especially some of those larger requests, right, if it requires staff time, I'd hate to. I wonder how many of those people even live in our district who are making these public records requests. I don't know, but.
I do not know that.
So, and then this person is also helping with grants also.
With the documentation, so at the, we have checkpoints during grants and at the end of grants as we're closing them out to provide certain documentation, training that we've done. The records to show that we were in compliance with the portions of the grant. So, for instance, there's a lot on summer school, so the payroll records and things like that. So this person could help gather those for submission. That takes an extreme amount of time to be able to do that, I know from experience. So yes.
So is this
that would help.
person going, that's where I get cloudy, just so you know. Your first explanation was pretty focused, and now it's, and all other duties is assigned, which is what we see all over the place, but it's an administrative assistant position is what I'm hearing. I'm really struggling with that.
No, they-
So when you go back over here, public records and summer school and grants and media and annually reviewed, there's so many red flags. I'd like clarification on the department too. I think you know what I want to see before we approve the plan. So.
Could you repeat what are you requesting?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I thought, okay. The program specialist media services, there's a media services department. There's another program specialist or manager, director in this position in this staff.
There's an instructional materials manager, and there is an inventory specialist.
I want to know what those people do as well.
Job
We knew.
description.
Mhm. Well, I wouldn't say job descriptions. I feel like our job descriptions, a lot of us rely on that as other duties
You
as
want a
assigned to,
list.
right? Like, yes, I want to understand better.
Okay.
And my concern is from the opposite direction here, where I'm hearing that this person is going to be pulled in so many directions. I wonder if it's going to provide enough support to the media services side that I see the backlog. And as you described the grants, you talked about, I think you said, an extreme amount of time associated with doing that. I just don't know if this is enough. Like, I might even be pushing.
I don't disagree with what you
Okay.
said
Oh,
at
good.
all.
Okay.
Especially in regards to all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Mhm.
I can't, like, we're stressing importance here, but then all these other things too, it just seems kind of not defined, which is,
Well, in conservative nature, we did ask for one that would be media certified in order to be able to dip into both worlds. So many of our program specialists have multiple duties.
So could you, if there are some administrative type tasks here, could you take those off of this program specialist job and make that truly the instructional media services side and assign some of the administrative tasks to a separate position? Is that what you're thinking, that there should be like an administrative assistant?
that's why I
here
want to
that-
see like the tasks and roles within. Like, that's why I've asked for that,
We
because.
will get you those.
Yeah, and we're going to
'cause I can't
schedule.
make, right? I can't make that call, but it certainly seems like it would.
And Ms. Luke did make this request, and so I've talked to Ms. Cockcroft about getting with Ms. Obando, having sitting down and really looking at those roles and responsibilities to more clearly define, because I think, to your point, it does get a little muddy. And certainly, we've tried to be conservative, but just, the work of that department continues to grow, and we certainly want to make sure that, one, they have the supports that they need, and that the board is comfortable with the plan that's being presented. So we can do that. We'll schedule that.
You know, I
We
think it's
have planned
been,
to do that next
I think, you know, sitting from where we were a year ago, it was surprising the amount of work that has grown, because while we knew that there were some bills pending in the legislature, then you get the you get the State Board of Education has gone even farther beyond what the legislature has prescribed, and I just don't see them slowing down. So,
Yeah, nor do I.
yeah.
I agree with Mr. Dodd, and I just want to make one comment. So the work that, when Mrs. Luke was telling me the hard work that she was volunteering and helping in the libraries, so the media specialist at the individual school is making the decision to add the book? Or
No.
is it coming to the district?
It's coming, we have a work group that we pay a stipend after hours, and they're considering those books.
I think
And not all of them need to go to a full work group
I was
of
just
all
going to
6 or
ask
7
that, like, is
people.
there common sense in this approach? Because there's some books that I've scanned that aren't in our library that are like planes from some unknown publisher that's a real small, and I'm like, if this has to go to a district committee, I don't know that we're making the best use of our time.
Some of those are being done by one person on the committee.
But
The-
ultimately, there has to be accountability now
Yeah.
with these books and all this other business. And so it's got to, if it's coming to the district, I feel way better about that. But
They have to
then-
be, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
They have to be entered into the system too, so they're in the searchable list, which is part of the
Right.
statutory requirement.
Bingo. And then I lost my thought. No. But once we get through this entire process, then that demand, do we add millions of books every year? The answer probably is no, right? So.
No,
It's gonna-
once we
The job's
get
going to
through
get
the.
easier once we get through this whole, so the person in their job description having other responsibilities, is not as problematic for me. That's all, that was my point in this.
Okay. Continuing on, our exceptional student education department, we would like to reduce one program specialist at the district level to increase funding that can then be, help support ESE specialists to support schools with large caseloads. In addition, we would like to reduce one speech-language pathologist itinerant, that's at the district level. After reviewing the data, they found that we can continue this work and support that we provide the schools with large caseloads with the 2 other pathologists that we have. We would like to increase one teacher-intensive behavior support itinerant. This will give us a 4 for the district, and they help support the schools with some of the disruptive behaviors for our students in our intensive support classes. They work directly with the staff and the students in there. Our Student Services Department, we are very thankful that our voters see the need for increasing the millage again, or approving that millage again, in order for us to provide the services that our students need to be mentally well and being safe. And this, we would like to add an administrative coordinator to help support the program development, the professional development of these employees, and the personnel evaluations. They'll also oversee the data collection and the analysis for all the reporting requirements for these additional services provided to our students. And then
Amy,
finally,
Amy, real quick, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh,
To
nope.
that comment right there, and I had that circled earlier too, when we've got the millage there, and back to superintendent's department on Joe's department, when we say millage, is that the school safety referendum, or is that another part of
No,
the other
that's
part of
school
the
safety
capital?
referendum,
Okay.
safety and mental health.
Got it, perfect. Just wanted to clarify that. Cool.
And I have a question.
okay,
So it was the renewal of the millage. So who was doing the work that you're asking to add?
so it
Because we've
was,
had the millage.
it was spread out over the department. We currently have a director and a administrative coordinator in that department, and they have been doing that work.
So it takes the place of them, or is it in addition to?
It's in addition to, it's a division of those duties, as this was a heavy load for them to be able to do, the hiring and all of that as well.
How many people are there that they're evaluating? Just curious.
That department is up to 150 people, approximately. Look to Dr. Landry to see, yes.
150 people are being evaluated by those 2 people? Yes?
Combination, because it's also nurses and mental health liaisons, which are at the schools, so I do those in conjunction with principals. But then there's psychologists and social workers and district people that have to be evaluated. So in total, we're about 100.
Do they still do a portfolio evaluation?
Yes, we have to do artifacts, SSBM.
So you review a portfolio for 150 people?
Not all of them require that.
Yeah.
It's different kinds of evaluations depending on the position.
I'm sorry. A little clarification.
I wonder if, are you all picking her up on the microphone? Oh, perhaps it might be worthwhile to come down. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, how many people did you say? 150?
So out of student services comes all of psychologists and social workers, and there's 25 of each of them. All the nurses, we have a nurse in every school, so that's about 50 of them. And then we have a mental health liaison in every school, and there's 50 of them. And then I have people who work under me who are program managers, and I have office staff as well. So when you total all those evaluations, and they're all different, some are simple and some are very complicated, it does total out to be 150 people.
Okay. But the program managers, do they not evaluate some of
do
those
not.
people?
They
do.
cannot.
They have no evaluative
Correct.
responsibility?
They have supervision kind of duties, like they can help me in coaching and supervising, but they can't officially do the evaluations. I
think this is
You
maybe-
have to be an administrator to do evaluations.
I think this is maybe some of the awkwardness in our organizational structure is that we've got all these managers in places supervising processes, and because they're supervising processes, they're really directing the work of people, but then they're not the ones who are evaluating those people. The people are reporting to somebody different than the person who is supervising or directing their work.
But the managers
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
are under me.
The way I said it, I guess it doesn't, but.
No, but
No, I
the
think he's
managers are
agreeing with you.
under my direction.
Right, but that happens in many departments where we have managers, right? I mean, you've got managers in
Program
curriculum,
managers.
and you've got managers here, and we've got managers in employee relations, and all these places. They're supervising the processes and directing the work of people, but they're actually not the ones who the people are reporting to, which is, I don't know, a bit odd.
Awkward.
So I guess maybe that's part of a larger discussion as to, is that the right process that we're going for? Maybe that takes, if these people are not in a, or if they're in a position where they can evaluate, then maybe we don't have to add so many
Right.
higher level positions to be able to achieve that purpose.
And they would know the work.
And they know the work, because they're the ones interacting with those people on a daily basis.
And it's really, for me, it's not just about evaluation. Adding another administrator adds another level of leadership. It's been very difficult for me and one coordinator to lead all of the different areas that come out of student services. So it is really not purely just evaluation. I need another leader in my department.
Will they have a focus? Because I know you said like psychologists and social workers and nurses and
Yes.
mental health. So that's like 5 different fields that you've got underneath you, so.
Right, so I have a draft plan of what the responsibilities for me would be, and then the two coordinators. And honestly, it elevates my role to be more of a direct leader for everyone, handling all of the strategic plans and the goals for the department. I haven't been able to do a lot of that over these past 3 or 4 years because I've been directly involved in the management of the people. So, but I have a draft. I'd be happy to share it with you of all the responsibilities and roles under this new proposed schedule.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I'd be
That
happy
would
to.
help.
I'd be happy to. Any other questions for me?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, and finally, we are looking at adding 3 program specialists, 1 for each region using ESSER funds to help support the schools in the region, establish a research-based support team for our new teachers. After the superintendent and I met with Kathy and Elizabeth from LCEA, and hearing their concerns about the potential support for our newest teachers in our district, we determined that having a specialist for each region would allow us to provide training for our school-based mentors, while overseeing the development of a new teacher induction program at each school, providing them with the resources they need to help train and retain high-quality teachers. And you can see that's a net impact to general fund of around $67,000 and other funding sources at around
And
$84,000.
Amy, on those program specialists, those would be permanent? We would just transfer those over to general fund when ESSER expires, or what's the plan with those?
I think we would have to look and evaluate because there's other positions in ESSER as well that will have
Yep.
the same. So I think as a whole, we'll have to look as a district and determine what needs to transfer and what we need to continue and what would
Do
be
we know what that
discontinued.
training would look like?
Well, I have some background in that from when we had that before, and that mentorship training that kind of got lost when we went through COVID and all of that. So that would be a starting place, and we do have people, the coaching and mentoring people in the district that do that training that could build from there and help work with these regional specialists.
So this person, they're going to spend most of their time working with the mentor teachers or with the first-year teachers?
I would anticipate they would spend most of their time working with the school-based structure that would then provide the support to the new teachers. While I think a portion of their time could be spent with some of the immediate needs for classroom management and things like that a teacher might have in order to help quick turnaround on getting them successful.
So the idea behind all this is to build the school-based mentorship
Yes.
program. And so that's a dramatic shift from, I think when I first came on the board, that was one of the first things I lashed out at was how challenging it was to be a first-year teacher because the support from the district was pretty scarce. There were only a handful of people, and by the time you divide that number of new teachers by that handful of people, I saw this person, for 20 minutes 3 times a year. That clearly it was the school-based mentor that brought success, to my teaching career, not from the district. So I like this approach. It's
The immediate
different.
day-to-day that's
Yeah.
there from that school
Yeah,
support
it's-
team. Yeah.
There's a value in the mentor next door.
Any other questions for me?
I think just going forward in regards to some of these positions, and I don't think this is just yours, I'm trying to think even for some of those before, but I think it might be helpful, especially for this board and for future boards, if we're going to come back to evaluate the effectiveness of positions once the funding runs out, rather than just, this is a really helpful position, and I'm thinking back to the other duties as assigned, right? Yeah, it's great to have more people. We all want more people. There's a lot of work to be done. We're all feeling that. But if there was a way, an evaluative measure that you could attach to whether or not we need that position, it would be really helpful for us to make the decision. And we hear that a lot when we're adding positions to our staffing plan. Oh, these are grant dollars, but then it's just going to meld into our regular staffing plan. And so if we're going to be strategic about that, I would appreciate a vision. Did we meet it or not? And then are we going to keep it or not? Especially as these ESSER dollars, I feel like we're going to find ourselves on that precipice, for lack of a better word, soon. And how do we decide what was really effective for our students and our staff? And how do we decide what we can let go of? So I would appreciate some thoughts about that. I've had similar thoughts to some of the stuff that we're doing, I know, with our millage funding. So it would be really nice if we could have some just goal-based, I think it would also be a great way to showcase the work that's being done rather than the speculative, do we need this position or not?
Yeah, I agree. Executive Cabinet's already discussed. We have 2 positions in our teacher learning and leadership that come to mind that we've talked about, like what data would show that they're needed or that their job is done, and start collecting that.
I appreciate that
They have
very
some of
much.
that already from this year, one of those positions. So.
We discussed that with Kathy and Elizabeth as well as looking at it, we have teacher retention rates that we can look at and the surveys that we send out to new teachers. And I know that we collectively agreed that we would certainly have some measures in place to determine whether or not this is a model that if we're going to be using an alternative funding source, is there value to it moving forward and whether or not we've been able to accomplish those goals. So I totally agree with you on that. And I know every year, Dr. Landry gives us an update on all of her, with all her measures in her department as well, and I think that's a great model for us to follow in terms of being able to evaluate all of our positions.
So is this the last year of the ESSER funding positions on our staffing plans? It is.
Yes.
So next year will be the year that we're going to have to really
Right.
make a lot of decisions on that
Right.
staffing plan, so.
And I don't even, just to be clear, I love the information that Dr. Landry presents. I don't know that it justifies these were the goals that were being met. It sounds good, it feels good. That doesn't allow me to make a decision. It's going to feel good when we see the media specialist work being done. It feels good, but which one's,
Hard
which one's
data.
most, yes. So
She needs hard data.
Well, because I think we're going to be making some really important decisions about what to continue forward with. And it's all important work, so I don't mean to devalue, it's all important work, all of it. All of it is important work. I see your facial expression, so it's all important work. Everybody in here is a very important part of the work that we do in Lake County. And when we are deciding those things coming forward, I think it really needs to be based on some really good data rather than just feel, everybody's doing the work. How do we decide what to keep? So, thank you.
You said earlier we could have everything we want?
Yeah.
No, that's what I
That's what thank you, that's what I'm referring to.
But we
How
can't do
do we-
anything we want.
Yes.
Yeah, we know there's hard decisions coming, and I know
Yeah.
that we will bring a thoughtful plan along with some data to support those positions moving forward or not.
I appreciate you looking ahead to that, because that
It's
was
coming.
going to, it's going to be, whoa, it's
Yeah.
here, and some tough decisions. Thank you.
Right, good morning. This is always exciting to me because I think one of the things that I'm lucky in my job, I get to support teachers and students, but it really kind of warms my heart to be able to support like our teams. And especially with the staffing plan, I feel like we've actually built a staffing plan that's going to modernize IT a little bit. And so I'll go ahead and start going through it real fast, and I'll kind of go through line by line and explain a little bit of the rationale. So we have at the first page, you can see quite a few deletions to some extent. And part of what this is a reconfiguration or a little bit of a reorganization. We've been hit by attrition this year. And I know people stay for one of two reasons. Sometimes it's the raw money. Sometimes it's the feeling that there is a path for progression. And right now, one of the things that I think limited our older, or what I hope to be soon, our older IT structure is that we had jobs that were kind of pigeonholed, and they just kind of stopped there. And so like there wasn't like a clear path of progression to some extent because some of them were very niche. And I'll kind of go through line by line and explain how I think we're going to be able to remedy this. So one of the first jobs that we have that we're looking to shelve is an account access control specialist. We took the opportunity over the last little bit to automate this process. So when somebody gets hired or so, not only does it create their all their accounts, but it also creates their account in the student information system and the staff system. So we don't need that person anymore. Currently, that position is vacant right now. When I go to try to hire that position, I don't get a whole lot of bites on it, and it just made sense for a machine to potentially do it, and we could use that money and that position for something else, something that we are looking to do. The database systems administrator, in the next little bit, will be hosting the Focus Student Information System, which is coming alive, is basically out in the cloud, kind of an industry standard to some extent. The Skyward business system will be out in the cloud pretty soon, and that's what a database systems administrator did, is they tended to the databases of those massive systems, and so we do not believe that we will need that position anymore as well. An infrastructure support technician, this position is a position that kind of becomes an assistant to our network guy. We think we have a better idea for that, and I'll kind of sort of go over that in the next little bit. And then the IT SQL programmer is a position that is very, very important, but as we go into focus, that person is having to learn a whole new set of skill sets, and so we feel like that position needs to be upgraded a bit. The student information analyst, I'm not sure if you're aware of it. It is a person, she's one of my favorite people, she's about the funniest person ever. But one of the things that she's charged with, and if we ever have to replace her, we'll be charged with, is she creates all the state reporting, which generates hundreds of millions of dollars. You can do the good work in a school system, but unfortunately, unless you create the report and therefore submit the invoice to the state of Florida, you're not getting any of it. And they're pretty ruthless on that these days, so you definitely have to be on your game. It is a complicated process. We think that needs an upgrade. The technology operations logistic tech, we've basically streamlined a lot of our internal processes to handle procurement differently, and as a result, I don't believe we need this. This was somebody who managed like kind of a warehouse to some extent in the past, and we just don't need that. We're able to get much more rapid in our procurement processes with almost like a just-in-time. We just don't have a lot of stuff laying around anymore. The tech support one, this position is one of my most challenging positions. I always get to meet interesting people from outside because very few people internally will apply for it. It is our entry-level position. One of the things that Lake County has done that just really makes me feel good is we built a culture of learning within our department. So people will take an entry-level position, and every once in a while we'll get lucky. We've gotten recently some people who have finished school and they come in trying to cut their teeth. But for the most part, it's almost an impossible position unless that person's willing to take that chance on us. It's a hard position to fill. There's just too many other tech jobs where people can work at home and things of that nature and just come in at a greater rate. We have 6 of those currently. We're looking to basically kind of sort of downgrade to 5, just simply because we think we could use that position for something more meaningful. Not that that work isn't important, but like I think there's a chance for us to start upscaling some of our people and grow them. And then the Tech 2 is another position. These people are really marketable. These are the people that get a little bit of time in. They've learned the skill, and of course IT can be that, where you can learn the skill. You may not need as much formal training, but what you learn on the job will take you far. And we feel like in an attempt to retain these people that we need to change that position. I think too, this is a continuity thing for me. You always want to grow people, and then you want to hang on to them. I would never name them by name, the clerk of the court. However, the truth of the matter is that even government agencies have seen us as a farm league. And I think our people are so good, I want to make sure that we retain them here and that there is not the opportunity to recruit them away. And so that's where you see the deletions. What we are adding is that I do believe on the next slide, is we're adding a listing of positions that I think will kind of sort of gear us to the future. The class of position that I'm looking to start and kind of stratify is, if you think about it, it's like we'll have a junior network person, or like a network person and then a senior person. This creates that path of progression, right? Like that ability to grow into a new role instead of seeing just one job and then you're there for 5 or 10 years or something like that. The junior network engineer will be a position that will be very, very key. I will say, in my line of thought on this, is that as we've started to grow, a little less is done in the field, as we still have field technicians, obviously, and we'll be coming up with we have a great plan for that. However, it's the network. The network has to be working, and a lot of the network can be serviced remotely. And then, of course, we need to be able to keep people, but also grow them into their next level. The network communication engineer, if you're unfamiliar with this is somebody who will handle our phone system. I will not lie, our phone system is getting a little long in the tooth. I know that seems kind of strange. And when phone systems age out, then you start having to go to eBay to buy parts and things of that nature. We're not there yet. However, we will have to look at a phone transition in the next little bit. This is also some continuity to get somebody to be the understudy, because right now we have a phone guy who is very diligent, an amazing individual, but he is probably in the last couple of years before he retires, which I will try to stall as much as I can. He's not a drop at least, so I've got some maybe options, but that will happen. We need to get some continuity there. The infrastructure engineer is also in a similar situation. We have a great infrastructure engineer, but a senior, but this network infrastructure engineer will be there, and that person will be leading a lot of the work on the network underneath the senior. And then a network systems engineer, in case you're wondering what this is the Active Directory, all the Windows stuff that makes it work. So if you think about it, you've got phones, network, and Windows effectively. And so that systems engineer we would put in. And then what we would be doing also is putting in an information and instructional security, or an information and infrastructure security engineer. You will see as we close out the audit this year, the state, I think we've done pretty well so far. The exit interview will be this week. However, the state has we've made a lot of changes with the board's help the last year. They were just in time. The state really did come in a lot harder under this audit, under cybersecurity, harder than I've seen them. They had a lot more probing questions, and I think we need to continue our work there. I think that's just a challenge for school districts. I think we will have done pretty good. However, I guess what I got out of this is that you can't stand still in that particular field. We're going to need to continue to press forward. And then the last two positions is as we go to focus, I'll be adding a senior program analyst. There's a lot more roles and responsibilities, not just the first year, but as you go to focus. One of the things is that we've had, I don't want to jinx it yet necessarily, but we've had pretty rave reviews on Focus. But the truth of the matter is that as you get into data systems and you can finally start getting a lot of student data out that could be used to inform instruction, then the desire for that data grows considerably. And so I think that person's workload is going to be pretty thick. It's a more sophisticated skill set in Focus. It's more potential, but it's it's also just a lot of learning. And then also, I think one of the things that I want to make sure is that we want our state reporting person to stay. But I think it is important for us to harden that state reporting process because it's just so essential. I will tell you flat out, as a former teacher, you can give a 99 and you're like, you did pretty good. If you get a 99% in state reporting, you just let $10 million float out the door or something like that. So or a considerable amount if it's the wrong 1%. And so I would like to harden that position. When it's all said and done, what we're looking at is that we're looking at, I tried to do this as conservatively as possible. We are actually one less position, like if you're just counting the heads. I think for me right now, where I think we are in our department is that I don't want to add positions. I definitely don't want to add positions that won't pay, that are hard to recruit for. Right now, I feel like our team is strong enough that if we can just retain the people that we have and structure accordingly, then I think we can get it done. And so the net increase in this particular staffing plan is $39,000 or so.
Good work.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
On the last page, you'll see the overall financial impact. And I want to go back to when we presented this to you last year. It fell a little early in the budgeting process, and if you recall, the board had asked that in the future, that you were not approving positions prior to knowing the financial outlook for the district. So legislative session ends this week, I believe. It ends on Friday. We hope to have some idea of where the budget's going to land over the course of the week. This is scheduled to be on the agenda for May the 8th, but what I would say to the board is, if it is approved, the plan of positions are approved on May the 8th, what we will ensure is that no positions will be posted until the board has had an overview of our budget. We followed up with the executive session, hopefully at the end of the month, when all of that has been finalized, and at that point, at the direction of the board, we'll post positions for next school year. The only exception to that are the 3 positions that Mr. Ward mentioned, which would be the building permit specialist and the 2 code compliance inspectors that we do need now. And those would be the only ones that we would post upon approval of the staffing plan. So if that is a okay approach, that will be the recommendation on May the 8th. That'll also give us time to meet individually with any of you who had some additional questions, and we'll get some meetings scheduled this week to address those concerns as well. Sound like a plan?
I appreciate that approach.
All right. The next item on the agenda, we're going to switch over, give our IT folks a chance to bring up the next presentation. I'm going to need Mr. Ward, would you mind grabbing that, please? This will work from here. As I said, the last item on the agenda today is to bring to you the final report from our most recent accreditation review. This actually occurred in February. We finalized our 5-year accreditation review with a presentation to the members of the review committee from Cognia, an international accreditation and certification provider. The months prior, really starting back to the end of last school year, we're spent gathering documentation and submitting many documents to show evidence of our work over the past 5 years in alignment to the quality review standards. And the work was extremely time-consuming, but I think I've mentioned to you before, the new standards take a very different approach, whereas in the past, all the documentation was going school by school. This year, it fell to the district to do all of the documentation submissions, which was a welcome change to keep some things off of the plates of teachers and school leaders. But I do want to acknowledge right off here at the beginning, Melissa Desjardins, Dr. Desjardins did an amazing job. I know she gave up most every vacation and every weekend for several months. I know she missed her birthday and everything else in between. She did all of the training. She worked almost daily with the Cognia staff. She kept us all straight, which I know was a hard task. And I just want to thank you for your leadership as we share this today. I think it's a reflection of all of our collective efforts, but really the process itself was all attributed to you and your leadership, so I want to thank you for that. So just as we did with the review committee, we started with a district overview video. So we're going to switch over. I'm going to have you watch the video, and then I'll share a few of the highlights from the presentation that we shared with the review committee. I'm also going to give you our scores for each of the standards and our overall total and accreditation status at the end, and you have copies of this as well. So we're going to roll the video.
Just a short drive from Florida's coastal beaches and popular theme parks sits Lake County, a community rich in natural beauty and steeped in historical significance. Appropriately named for its many lakes, the county built an economy on its weather and land through farming, citrus, and lumber. It has grown exponentially over the years, attracting new enterprises and residents drawn by the small town charm amidst big city conveniences. Those residents enrich the community and raise their families here, many of whom were educated in Lake County's public schools. Today, the district has about 47,000 students spread across the county. We have 20 traditional elementary schools, 1 K-8 school, 10 middle schools, 8 high schools, an exceptional student center, 2 alternative schools, an early learning center, a K-12 virtual school, and 12 charter schools, including a technical college. Each school is committed to our mission of providing students with individual opportunities to excel. That means offering varied learning paths tailored to meet each student's individual needs and interests. Doing so will help ensure that all of our students graduate from high school with the academic and/or workforce readiness skills needed for personal and professional success. Eligible students who seek high-level educational challenges can find their path through our many advanced placement courses, Excel options, gifted enhancement programs, and ACE, the esteemed Cambridge Advanced International Certificate of Education. We are also in the planning year for a launch of our first International Baccalaureate program in 2023. Additionally, we offer various career and technical education, or CTE, programs designed to provide a pathway for post-secondary education and/or the workforce. Through CTE, students are immersed in relevant and engaging learning that culminates in the opportunity to earn industry certifications that lead to high-demand, high-wage jobs. Local business partners provide real-life learning experiences by offering student internships and teacher externships, giving tours of their facilities, serving as guest speakers in the classroom, and by lending their professional knowledge as members of a CTE advisory board. Students get to learn within an area of their interest, which makes the learning more applicable to their future goals. At every middle and high school, teams of students are involved with AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination, a global nonprofit organization that operates with one guiding principle: hold students accountable to the highest standards, provide academic and social support, and they will rise to the challenge. AVID's research-based curriculum and strategies ensure that students develop critical thinking and literacy and math skills across all content areas. Yet another pathway to success for Lake County students. We also offer 2 transitional programs for students with disabilities: Project Search and Work-Based Learning Experiences. Both of these provide students with unique opportunities to learn job skills in order to prepare them for future employment. Other paths include participation in our annual STEAM Bowl, robotics competitions, and science fairs, exploration of the visual and performing arts, learning foreign languages, athletic competitions, volunteer opportunities, field trips, clubs, and special events. The possibilities are endless. We are a dynamic, progressive, and collaborative learning community. We believe in rigorous, relevant, and engaging classrooms where students read, write, think, and talk every lesson, every day. That's worth repeating. Read, write, think, and talk. It has become a mantra for the district and has helped to steer our efforts toward meaningful and focused instructional reform. We have defined our common vision for teaching and learning through the implementation of our instructional framework, as our new standards demand that students work collaboratively, communicate using multiple forms of media, and problem solve at high levels. Our teachers are empowered by their participation in weekly collaborative planning, where they work together to analyze student work, reflect on their instruction, and develop the next steps for improving student performance. This work and commitment led to Lake County Schools being named a National Model PLC at Work School District in 2021. We have an obligation to engage students in a learning environment that promotes the development of 21st century learning skills. We have worked diligently to increase student access to various technologies and have invested in infrastructure and devices supported through the implementation of meaningful curriculum to work toward this goal. Careful coordination of funding has allowed us to become a one-to-one Chromebook district, giving students increased access to online instruction, as well as tools for research, curriculum resources, and intervention supports. Beyond academics, we are committed to creating and maintaining safe learning environments for our students. With the support of Lake County voters who approved a 3/4 meal tax in 2018 and again in 2022, we now have 1 or more sheriff's deputies, police officers, or school safety officers in every school. We also have a nurse in every school, assigned to help students manage their physical and mental health needs, as well as school psychologists, mental health liaisons, and social workers, all critical for the ongoing support of our students' health and well-being. We also used money from the school safety millage to create the Lake Success Academy as a short-term alternative to expulsions, the Academy of Lake Hills in 2 locations to meet longer-term needs, and the Positive Alternative to School Suspension, or PASS program, for temporary interventions. We are proud of where we are today, and we are excited about where we're headed. We invite, encourage, and welcome our families and community to become a partner in our mission. Please join us as we transform education and make a positive impact in students' lives. We are Lake County Schools.
So we started with the video, and I said to the review team, could we just stop here? Because I
Right.
felt like they pretty much said it all. I want to thank Sherry Owens and Thomas Johnson. They put together the video and did a phenomenal job getting that together for us. So they gave us the 45 minutes to then go in depth into each of the things that we had highlighted. I'm not going to do that with you all. I am going to go through this rather quickly. I do want you to see the scores and how they were broken out. They were clustered into, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get this to move from here. There we go. Into 4 areas. And so within each of these 4 areas, these are the quality standards indicators, the clusters. Each of them had a series of standards that were specific to that category. So I'm just going to highlight these categories for you. And as I said, this is not new information for you, so I'm not going to go into it in detail. I will not take the 45 minutes that I did with them. But certainly, if I go too quickly or there's things that you want to talk about along the way, please stop me, and we can make this more conversational than me just talking. So I'll just highlight each of these areas and the scores within each of them from the final report. And I started with this particular quote under the culture of learning area. I started with this quote because it has been fundamental to our work, and it serves as a reminder to our school leaders that we are accountable to make sure that every child has the very best teacher, and by design, we must provide the supports needed to ensure that there is consistency and effectiveness of instructional practices while communicating our common vision for teaching and learning for every classroom every day. So in this section under culture of learning, we focus primarily on our instructional design and professional learning. But we also highlighted some of our support services that are intended to ensure that great teaching and learning is not left to chance, but it is by design. I'm not going to go over this because you are very familiar with our district report card. We did use this as an opportunity to explain to the review team, because they are not from the state of Florida, a little bit about the Florida accountability system. This showed our 3-year data trends, and within the data, we highlighted our increase in the percent of total points from 603 to 626 from 2021 to 2022, and explain how, while we're still within that grade range of a B, we are a higher B than in the prior years, and continue moving towards that A. We highlighted the overall ELA learning gains and ELA learning gains of the lowest quartile, as well as learning gains within each of those math components as an area of continued growth for us. We highlighted our graduation rates as well as our high school and middle school acceleration. And again, you're familiar with those, so I won't go into too much detail, but you'll see the more in-depth slide. So again, I highlighted these particular areas mainly because they support our strategic plan goal of increasing student achievement. And as we think about our mission to ensure that all students graduate ready for college and enter the workforce, these items certainly support that vision and mission, which is one of the things when you're undergoing accreditation review, is to connect everything back to your vision and mission and your why. So I did go in detail with them on our expanded career and technical education programs. You are very familiar with these, so I won't talk about each of them, and you've seen this slide before. And I highlighted here how we've been very proactive in working with our state legislature to obtain additional funding, including that $1 million that we received to revitalize the construction academy at Leesburg, and the $350,000 appropriation, which was the more recent one that we received to expand the aviation programs at Leesburg and at Lake Mineola High School. I also highlighted our acceleration programs. These were discussed in the video. One of the things that we talked about was some of that out-of-the-box thinking Mr. Dodd and I were talking about earlier when it came to looking at programs that really needed that we needed to put in place to meet some of the changing needs of our students. One example that I highlighted was our night school program and the numbers of students that are actually getting back on track for graduation as a result of the opportunity to be able to, whether it's work or other things that might have taken them off of that traditional path, to being able to ensure that they graduate on time with their cohort. I actually have a letter from a student that I won't read to you, who's last week sent a letter to me through Mr. Randolph at Leesburg High School, talking about he was retained in third grade, and that he's always struggled knowing that he was behind his original cohort of students. He moved out of state for a while. His dad became very ill. He ended up having to come back home to care for his father. And he was very far behind in credits. He met with Dr. Gigi, the assistant principal at Leesburg High School. She got him into the night school program, and he's going to graduate with his cohort this year. And he talked about the impact of the program on his life and that of his family. And it is, I get emotional just thinking about it, because I know he's just one of hundreds of kids to which this approach, this opportunity for kids that the board approved through some additional funding has been life-changing for kids, and something that I know we're going to look to find ways to continue these types of programs. We also had to, in each of the areas, highlight some of our action steps, things that we're going to either continue to do as we think about next steps as we are on the path to improvement. I'm not going to read these to you. Again, there are things that were highlighted in the videos, but I did use this opportunity as well to really think about some of the successes that we've had, especially around professional learning through our teachers' commitment to common planning, and talk about that more in depth. We highlighted as well in this section the instructional framework that you're familiar with. I talked about it really serving as that common vision for teaching and learning and the expectation, some of the things that I shared this slide in regards to our vision and mission in a very simple form that it is, that we want students to read, write, think, and talk every lesson, every day. And then I shared with them the framework that you've seen before as well, and the different components of the framework that defines our common vision and expectations for teaching, learning. And then for this particular section, this was the evaluation score. So in the area of culture of learning, we did receive a perfect score. The scores range for each of the standards from 1 to 4. It does not mean that we are perfect, but what it does mean is that the review team noted that we have a very clear, and that our expectation for teaching learning is clear and it is focused, and that we are seeing steady impacts on improving student achievement, which is evident. The challenges we faced the past 3 years, and I did talk about that, has certainly caused us to get off track a little bit, things like pandemics and hurricanes and all that we've been through, but we continue to see the impacts of our commitment to meet the needs of every student, and I'm very proud of the fact that of all the standards, this section, the standards were most in-depth and very specific, and that we were able to show that we are truly committed to a culture of learning across this district. And so a perfect score, I think, is something to celebrate. The other thing that was unique, according to the reviewer, is that very few districts receive what they call a noteworthy practice. I'll let you take a minute to read our noteworthy practice that was given to us by the team. It really highlights our focus on commitment to professional learning. Professional staff members intentionally and consistently work together to review information, identify common problems, and implement solutions for our students. The next section was leadership for learning. And this section focuses on school and district leaders, communication, expectations, and the impacts on behaviors and attitudes towards learning. And one of the requirements is that we use data in order to rate ourselves on some of the scales within each of the standards. So we have 2 surveys that we use. One is the annual stakeholder survey. Those are actually out right now, I think getting ready to close. And this is sent to all parents and students, as well as the annual Leadership Empowerment and Development Survey, or LEAD survey, that is completed by teachers and staff. So the results are analyzed annually to determine individual leadership support needs and trend data for our leaders. And the questions align with our leadership expectations, vision, and mission. So you can see the question there is that do our leaders establish a culture of continuous learning? Consistently, 90% or above agree that Lake County school leaders provide a clear vision, with 2 or 3 of the past years, this score being greater than 96%. 90% or above of participants agree that our leaders support the expectations for students to read, write, think, and talk in every class daily. And 90% or above also agree that their administrators lead learning in the school. And that was a pretty powerful data source to talk about and support our rating that our leaders do establish a culture for continuous learning. Within this section, we highlighted some of our professional development work, including that PLC work, the weekly collaborative planning, the early release Wednesdays, which is very unique. That doesn't happen in all districts, that teachers do get additional time on Wednesdays to be able to collaboratively plan. And then the monthly learning walks that happen with our leaders as well as across our schools. I also highlighted under this area, teacher and staff recruitment and retention. We know that this is one of our greatest challenges, if not our greatest challenge, but I think for us it is also something that we could identify as a strength. I discussed our innovative practices to increase teacher and staff recruitment. I highlighted the board's commitment to raise employee salaries, and I talked about our district's financial position and where we were 6 years ago with a fund balance that was barely hanging on to 3%. To today, at the last time I asked Mr. Ward, was about 14%. So, and here I highlighted the 0.75 voter-approved millage, as well as I think it is important that as we think about teacher recruitment and retention and the ability to be able to have a healthy fund balance, that certainly was part of that. This was some of the data that we shared. You see this every year. And we know that it has dropped over the past 3 years. We saw teachers leaving mainly because of retirements as we went into the pandemic. They didn't return. In 2021, the teacher retention rate overall was 82.8, and you could see last year it was up to 83.9. So we're inching back up to about where we were pre-pandemic, which was right around that 86, 87% mark. We talked about some of the other things and ways that we are working together to increase teacher and staff recruitment and retention, including that financial position. And I did note here to the review team that I'm really proud. I hope that they will agree that we work very collaboratively with both of our bargaining units and their leadership. And I think that they would say the same. I know that we meet regularly and have enjoyed the partnership and relationship that we have in support of all of our employees, just to make it a great place for people to work. This section also focused on school safety and student services, so this was, you know these very, very well, as well as our mental health and student support work and all of the positions that we have, again, highlighting the millage and all that it's allowed us to do for students in this area. I won't spend time going through that. And then the last part of Leadership for Learning focused on, again, on the survey questions responding to school safety and security. You can see that 69% of the parents responded that they agree or strongly agree to the statement that our school provides a safe learning environment. 69% certainly is not where we want to be. We want all parents to feel as though their child is in a safe learning environment. So this is an area that we will continue to focus on. Some of our next steps did include the full implementation of the Strategic Crisis Alert System, which should be operational and fully functional for the start of next school year. We are continuing to increase school hardening measures. You talked about the keys earlier. I can tell you that that has been something that I know Kathy and I have talked about, and making sure that teachers have access throughout the building so that wherever they are, in the event of an emergency, they can get into a building safely, as well as the students, which goes back to that key issue. So Mr. Mabry formed a key work group that includes some of the folks from maintenance as well as school leaders to really talk about how do we develop a system without the cost associated that would give us greater key control as well as access on every campus. So that is something that they are working on, and is, as I shared with Mr. Mabry, make this priority number one because I think that it is very important. And then the first item provide teacher and leadership training support specific to classroom structures to reduce student misbehaviors. Specifically, those self-contained classrooms, one of the things that I look forward to sharing with the board in the near future is that our ESE department, led by Ms. Lyford, as well as Dr. Myers at Lake Hills, have developed a structure called the Structured Classroom. They have 13 model classrooms currently at Lake Hills, and over the past several weeks, we've started going into these classrooms. We've taken all of our elementary school principals into the classrooms. They've had an opportunity to see the structures in action, and the most exciting thing is we've had lots of teachers that have been visiting Lake Hills. They have some after-school training that's going on for teachers. And then they have a support team that's actually going into our schools with these self-contained units, and they're doing some side-by-side coaching and supports for these classrooms, and something that all of our general education teachers as well will be able to implement as we roll out a lot of training over the summer and continue to expand our support teams for this. This is something that I think is so unique and so needed as you respond to constituent concerns, parents, teachers, and others in regards to student behaviors, that the board be familiar with what's happening. And so I would be very excited about actually having a workshop at Lake Hills. They are training throughout the summer, so for them, school pretty much operates year-round, so it's not something that we have to have done by the end of May when school ends, but something maybe even in a summer session that we could get together, schedule a workshop there and have you go in and actually see this work in action and have these amazing teacher leaders talk to you about how they're seeing it transform behaviors in classrooms with some of our most challenging students. So we'll be looking to schedule that hopefully in the near future, working around your vacation times and things that I know will be coming up this summer. For this particular section, we had almost a perfect score. You can see we had a 3 in that last standard there. The institution has interpreted findings, prioritizing themes, and developing theories of action. This particular, when in the review notes, it said that we earned the 3 with the caveat that we should expand opportunities to plan and collaborate with stakeholders and use survey data to support and monitor the continuous improvement process. More opportunities to collect stakeholder feedback beyond the surveys was what they were encouraging. And so we will be thinking creatively about how we might want to do that. I know one of the ways that we do that collectively is that each of you as board members, along with myself and members of the staff, we are actively in our community all of the time. I know you're always fielding questions. We're in community events. Many of those we're in together, as well as you individually are very visible and as an opportunity to collect information, questions, concerns from constituents, and how do we formalize those processes as well and give them more opportunities was the recommendation there. Engagement for learning, with the next section, focuses on student engagement and some of the ways that we do that. This one was specific to stakeholder engagement. It kind of connected back to the previous section, so I really won't spend much time there. We talked about all the ways that we use social media and other platforms, including the world-famous Super Sundays, as ways to engage the communities and parents and others in what's happening in the district. And this is really, this slide goes, it's really Sherry Owens' work and all that she does to increase social media followers, as well as the new podcast that she's launched and many other things that she does on a day-to-day basis. And on student engagement as well, focusing on effective digital instruction was another standard. This highlighted the work of Mr. Weeks and his department and all that's happening in the world of digital classrooms and all that integration with the Chromebooks that also you're familiar with. We highlighted our expanded art, sports, and extracurricular opportunities, the fact that we have art and music in every one of our elementary schools, which was something that the board was committed to many years ago. And then the evaluation of this particular standard as well, missing it by, again, that 1 point on, that's actually the same one as before, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
What were the notes on that one? Do you have those?
Yes, the standard is specific to action research, which is formalized approach to identifying a problem, collecting data on the problem, and developing a plan to fix the problem. So this one actually this one goes with this section. So it was referring to action research versus the other one that was talking about formalizing data, data collection. The last section was growth in learning. And this had to do with readiness to learn. So here we highlighted all of our early learning programs, which you're familiar with, the first year that we've had full-day VPK in all of our elementary schools. Again, highlighted in the night program and some of our other opportunities for credit recovery, as well as summer programs to help kids accelerate. We talked about areas of improvement and all that we've been through in the state of Florida with new standards, new curriculums, and some of the supports around these areas as opportunities. And then the evaluation for this section, which again was just that 1 point off. The institution has analyzed and synthesized information and responded to the prompts for growth in learning. And here was their comment on that. Expand and improve opportunities for students to pursue individual goals and participate in activities and experiences based on needs and interests. This one actually was a little surprising to me because so much of what we did was highlighting all the opportunities for the students to pursue individual goals, whether it was through CTE, AVID, all the extracurricular things. I think they just needed to not give us a perfect score, so they picked this one. This one I would have to dispute a bit. But in closing, so the reviewer, when they met with Dr. Desjardins and then the final report, some of the comments they said that not everyone receives a noteworthy mention nor receives such a high score, especially under the new standards and protocols. So I thought that was noteworthy of mentioning. And then something that I know we're also extremely proud of, and that the reviewer said that she watched several board meetings, and the relationship between the board members and district leadership are such a benefit to the district, and said that they don't see that everywhere and something that we should certainly be proud of. They also, in their final comments, highlighted these 4 initiatives as being very noteworthy and something that they felt like was very unique to us. Our final score was a 343, and in your notes you can see that a score above a 300 indicates that the institution meets the expectations for accreditation, and the score includes at least 1 or more noteworthy practice. So in 2 years, we'll be asked to respond to those few items that you saw as next steps. And our accreditation status is now extended to the year 2029, so we won't have to do this again for quite some time. But I do want to congratulate and say thank you again to this amazing staff and everyone who, this is just a great opportunity to reflect upon all we've accomplished over the past 5 years, and I look back with great pride because sometimes we'll say, oh yeah, we did that. I forgot we did that. And really just seeing that we don't try to keep reinventing things. We just try to take what we started several years ago and just enhance it. If it's not working, we get rid of it. But we focus on what's going right and how to move the work forward. So I look forward to continuing the work together, and that's the highlights from the accreditation review.
Well done.
Thanks.
Okay. I did that really fast.
Yes. All right. Well, that concludes our topics for today, so we'll go down the line and see if anybody has any comments. Bill?
I just want to congratulate, this is just quick, because this morning, after I take the dog out for his morning constitution, I come in and check up on my board docs, and this report was attached. So I had some time to read it, and just extremely good work, Superintendent. And you and your entire team, just very proud to serve this district.
Tyler?
Yep. Kudos to Dr. Desjardins and her team and the entire district for the work we're doing there. And I also just want to comment on the staffing plan. Thank you to staff for everything that you put into that report. I think what we need to keep in mind is when mandates come from Tallahassee and more accountability and proactivity, which I think is important, to continue to see the funding needs that come with those as well. So I hope that the funding numbers we see from Tallahassee in a few weeks really contemplate those additional positional needs, not just for us, but for the state. But just a good morning, a lot of good work, so thank you, everyone, for what you're doing for us and for the students in Lake County.
I would say congratulations as well, not to be redundant, but congratulations on your work and all the work that you do. And I think it just highlights the importance of the work that's being done and how critical it is to make those really tough decisions. And I don't know how you do that with all, I mean, I think that it's a collective experience, which is why the accreditation was what it spoke to what it was. Ms. Cunningham and I had the opportunity to go to the Tavares High School Teaching Academy graduation ceremony, or signing day ceremony on Friday with 7 graduates. Mr. Farnsworth and his staff was there. The Education Foundation was phenomenal. Mr. Stein at Tavares High School does an exceptional job recognizing his students, and this was no exception. So does Chad's team. The work that they do with these students and ensuring that they come back to us is a huge recruitment event. We're just hoping to expand those numbers greatly, and it was very well done. I appreciate all of the work that gets put into that celebration. This is the time of year, right, that we get to celebrate all of these students' accomplishments, and it's a wonderful thing. I also got to go to Spring Creek. I can't remember what day it was. I feel like I've been in schools last week, all week, and see an active shooter drill with the sheriff involved. And the only mess up was that we didn't want them to know. So I came and Mr. Locke said, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, and he said, "Oh."
I can help you with your classroom libraries.
Dang it! I'm not good on the spot, you guys. I'm not good on the spot. But it was very well done. To see it in action was something that I was looking for with an elementary student in Lake County and some of the decisions that are being made or even coming from Tallahassee. It was reassuring to my soul. I think it's a direct reflection of Mr. Locke's commitment to that and the safety of his students and how he approaches it. It was very, very interesting, very, very well done. The sheriff's employees were there as well. Everybody was just on point. It was an amazing example of keeping students safe. So when I look at some of those questions about student safety in the survey reports, it's interesting. I know my personal perception as a mom conflicted with what I saw as well. So I wonder how we communicate that better, because it's exceptional work. And I want to thank Mark for being my escort out there. Mark and I both stood and looked at Mr. Locke like, we're here to see your school, which I never show up uninvited, so they knew something was up. And then the last thing is I know our baseball and softball teams are going into postseason. This is the week, so good luck. That's it.
I think the last time we were together, I said to you that relationships, in my opinion, really matter a lot. I think the presentation of the staffing plan today is a reflection of that. I think that perhaps because of our good working relationship and because of the confidence we have in staff, it makes it a lot easier when we talk about high-dollar items and we talk about changing and adding new processes. So I want to thank you, because it's because of your daily work that we're able to have as few questions as we do, and it is because of that daily explanations that you provide for us that we're able to say, okay, even if we may not clearly see the vision, we can say, well, we trust that person. That person is a professional, they're transparent, and that's rewarding. I'd also like to comment about Mr. Brandyberg and I, along with the superintendent, attended the Take Stock luncheon last week in Leesburg, and it was phenomenal. It was especially gratifying for me because some of the students that are actually now graduating are people that I had in middle school, so it was really nice to see them and be able to present them with a medal and know that they've earned a scholarship. With that said, Sorrento Elementary is having a very special, it's special to me, program next week. They are bringing back our first kindergarten class. They're now seniors. And that young lady that the superintendent featured yesterday, she and I have a very special story, so sometime when I see you on the side, I'll tell you about it. But anyway, they are bringing back all the kindergarten students from that year that are now seniors. They're coming back to the school, and they're having a reception for them to meet the kindergartners of this year. And it's going to be a really nice celebration. So any of you that are free that day, it's only for an hour. It's at 1 o'clock. Please feel free to stop by.
What day is that?
I will text you.
I'm sorry, I thought you said.
I did not say.
I will
look on my calendar.
Right,
I will text
We'll
you.
find out.
Right, excellent. Well, that sounds really interesting.
It is.
And creative. So the superintendent, Kelly Randall, and Scott Voico and I were all invited to last week's meeting of the Claremont City Council as an opportunity to share all the developments that are going on with, of course, we've got the ACA, we've got Lincoln Park down in that area as well, and also a great opportunity for us to just kind of share some of our outside-the-box thinking with a lot of those programs and buildings. And it's just really a great testament when you hear these folks step up there and be able to articulate such an outstanding vision and just to get everybody in the room just excited about these sorts of things. I had made the claim that we are just really light years ahead of where we were even just a few years ago, and I think this accreditation report, while I didn't have it at the time, really illustrates that, and so it's full of so many tangible results and documentation that we are doing incredible things, and it's the work of this staff. You know, I said it's just really easy right now to be a board member when you've got such great people leading the district, and so I'm just really grateful for everybody who makes that happen, because we know it goes beyond just the teaching in the classroom. There's a lot of support that is required to make that happen, so I'm very thankful. And Superintendent, any comments? You're next on the list.
Just a few. So at noon, if we go really quick, we're going to all be able to catch the Eustis Habitat dedication. So we had Leesburg's last week, we have Eustis today, and Friday is South Lake. And so that's always just a great time to see these students who have invested so much be able to hand the keys to the home that they've built to a well-deserving family. So that starts at noon in Eustis. I think we can make it. And I just wanted to recognize today is National School Principals Appreciation Day, if you didn't know it. And so just want to say thank you to all of our amazing school leaders and appreciate everything that they do. And thank you all for your time today and all your support.
Mr. Attorney?
Nothing.
Oh, that's great news. All right, with that, I'm not seeing any objections to adjourning, so we are adjourned.